Rahim. This question is common in Arab board, Saudi board, Jordanian board, and Egyptian board related to medications and pharmacology. If we'll see here, which of the following antibiotics act by inhibiting the cell wall synthesis except. So which antibiotic acts by inhibiting the cell wall synthesis except? We'll see. A, this is penicillin, this is beta-lactam, and P, amoxicillin, beta-lactam. So it will inhibit the cell wall, and C, cefotaxime, this is one of the cephalosporin, also it will inhibit the cell wall. Meropenem, this is one of the carbibnum, it also will inhibit the cell wall. Gentamicin, it will inhibit the protein synthesis in the ribosome. The gentamicin or aminoglycoside, it will inhibit the protein synthesis in the ribosome. So exception, it will be gentamicin. This is the exception. But the penicillin, amoxicillin, cefotaxime, this is called beta-lactam and cephalosporin and carbibnum. This is group or the family. It will act on the cell wall. As we know, the antibiotics, actual mechanism of action of the antibiotic, it will act on the four sites. In the cell wall, then cell membrane. If you see here, if you see, it will be easier for you to memorize it from your heart. Here it will act in the cell wall. This is the black line. Then it will act in the cell membrane. Then it will act in the nucleic acid, RNA and DNA. Then it will act in the protein, just all the small parts of the nucleic acid. It will be the protein. So the big one, it will be the cell wall, the cell membrane, nucleic acids in the protein, then the protein in the ribosome, the protein in the ribosome. So the antibiotics act in the cell wall: penicillin and cephalosporin and carbibnum, this is meropenem, and monobactam, and glycopeptide. This is vancomycin, and cycloserine. Antibiotic act in the cell membrane. It will impairment of the permeability of the cell membrane. In the cell membrane, this is polymyxin and antifungal and macrolides This is the families. Antibiotics, it will act in the nucleic acid, RNA and DNA. This is RNA, it will rifampicin, antifungal, and also fluconazole. If you'll see here, it will impair the protein synthesis in the ribosome: tetracycline, chloramphenicol, macrolides, and also it will aminoglycoside, gentamicin, and streptogramins. So this is good table. It will help you to memorize it. The mechanism of action of the antibiotics. There is 4 mechanism of action of antibiotic: cell wall, cell membrane, and nucleic acid, and last it will be protein synthesis in the ribosome. So the antibiotics act in the inhibit the cell wall synthesis: beta-lactams like amoxicillin, and glycopeptides like vancomycin. Antibiotics act in or inhibit the protein synthesis: tetracycline, this is doxycycline, aminoglycoside, this is the aminoglycoside, it will inhibit the protein synthesis, aminoglycoside, and gentamicin. So the example is gentamicin. Aminoglycoside, this is the family, and the antibiotic, it will be gentamicin. Macrolide, this is the family, it will inhibit the protein synthesis, and the antibiotic, it will be erythromycin. Inhibit the cell membrane function: polymyxins, this is the colistin, and inhibit the nucleic acid synthesis, call it RNA or DNA. RNA, it will be rifampicin, and trimethoprim, and quinolone like ciprofloxacin. This is to inhibit nucleic acid synthesis. So there is 4 actually mechanism of action of the antibiotics: cell wall, beta-lactam, and the glycopeptide. Cell membrane, just only polymyxin, and it will be the colistin. It will act in the nucleic acid, RNA and DNA. This is the ciprofloxacin and quinolone and trimethoprim and rifampicin. It will act in the protein synthesis: tetracycline, aminoglycoside, and macrolides. If we say it's more clear here, and actually it will help you also. Here actually this is 4 sites of action or mechanism of action of antibiotic. The first side, cell wall. Which antibiotic inhibit the cell wall? It will be beta lactam. Beta lactams, it will be penicillin, cephalosporin, and carbapenem, and monobactams, and glycopeptide, and also lipopeptide. Like what? This is the family. This is the family of the antibiotic. We'll see the antibiotic amoxicillin, penicillin, amoxicillin, cefotaxime, this is the cephalosporin, and carbapenem, like meropenem, and monobactams like astronium, and glycopeptide, this is the vancomycin, and lipopeptide, this is the daptomycin. So this is the action on the cell wall. It will inhibit the protein synthesis. This is the tetracycline, this is the family, and the name of the antibiotic, it will be doxycycline. Aminoglycoside, this is the family, and the streptomycin, gentamicin, and the MLS, this is the macrolides, erythromycin, clindamycin. This is also, it will inhibit what? Protein synthesis in the ribosome. Inhibit the DNA or the nucleic acid, DNA and RNA. The DNA will be the fluconol, it will be cephalosporin. Inhibit the folic acid synthesis, this is the sulfonamide, this is the trimethoprim, and inhibit the RNA rifampicin. This is also the summary of the mechanisms of the antibiotic action on the antibiotic. 4 mechanisms: cell wall, cell membrane, nucleic acid, RNA and DNA, and protein synthesis in the ribosome. What is the antibiotic? It will act on the cell wall. It will be the penicillin or the beta lactam, penicillin and amoxicillin, or cephalosporin like the cefotaxime, and carbapenem like the meropenem, and also it will be glycopeptide like what? Like vancomycin. This is, it will act. So this is beta lactam, cephalosporin, and carbapenem, and glycopeptide. This is, it will act where? In the cell wall. In the cell membrane, this is the polymyxin and antifungal and macrolide. It will act in the nucleic acid, RNA and DNA. It will be rifampicin, it will be RNA, and also it will be antifungal and fluconol. The antibiotic, it will act in the protein synthesis in the ribosome. It will be tetracycline, chloramphenicol, macrolides, and aminoglycoside. It will act in the protein synthesis. Cell wall, cell membrane, nucleic acid, RNA and DNA, and protein synthesis. ومن أحيا فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا. شكرا، سلام عليكم.